How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 5. We have woken up, which means we're not dead. Yet. Maybe, I don't know, but the point is that things definitely went south in the last episode, and we very well could have died. But, I mean, we have so much more of the story to go through. I mean, somebody even told me a few episodes ago that this is probably the longest one yet out of all the chapters as we go into the answer arc. But yeah, we got our fingernails pulled, 3 to be exact, to act as punishment for the 3, I guess the 3 individuals that we meddled with. Oh, I guess 2 of them we used, and then 1 we definitely meddled in the affairs of, which is probably not good. Definitely not good for the Sonozaki name, which is all very important in this world. So let's read on and see what happens now. I woke up. My memories were missing. I couldn't remember how I got back to my room. I held my head with both hands. My left hand was bandaged. The fingers that had their nails removed had swollen like hot dogs. I'd paid with those 3 fingernails for what I did. The hag had said something after the punishment, but I didn't remember any of it. I was taken to a hospital in Ukanomiya. The car shook on the way, adding extra pain on top of what I already felt. Somebody gave me some aspirin. They worked just like they said on TV, but they didn't last more than 10 minutes. I swallowed the pills without water. While I was spacing out in the waiting lounge, Kasai showed up. He probably came to check if I was alright. I obviously wasn't. He must have understood that from my bandaged left arm dangling from my shoulder. Kasai, on the other hand, looked just fine, at least on the outside. I was relieved that my sacrifice had meant something. Kasai didn't say anything. I couldn't tell if he wanted to tell me something or not because he looked so emotionless.
Kasai?
なんでしょう?
He paused shortly before answering. I could tell he was upset. I didn't regret revealing my true identity in order to protect Satoshi-kun. But I hadn't wanted Kasai or Uncle Yoshiro to be hurt. I had been contradicting myself.
吉郎おじさんはどうなったか知ってます？
いいえ。したたかな方です。ご無事と思います。後で謝られた方がいいでしょう。
うん。
I wanted to ask him about Satoshi-kun too. I wondered if he was captured or harassed by the Sonozaki family because of me. But I was hesitant to ask Kasai. After all, I had chosen Satoshi-kun over them. Was Satoshi-kun alright? I hoped he wouldn't get caught or incarcerated somewhere. I paid the hospital bill and Kasai gave me a ride home. I wonder if the doctors asked how this happened or something. Like what would you even answer with? I finally realized that somebody was knocking on my door.
シオンさん、横になり続けるのもやはり体に毒です。
It was Kasai. He put some dishes on the table and we started nibbling at them.
気分は落ち着かれましたか？
落ち着いたというか、
この数日間はずっと伏せっていたんですか？食事はされていましたか？
冷蔵庫の中の残り物を適当に食べてました。あとは天井を見てるか眠っているかのどっちか。
It had been 3 days. I'd just been lying down since then. I woke up every now and then in my shallow sleep, but I didn't feel like getting up or thinking. I felt like I'd just been floating the whole time. My appetite was gone, but it came back with the smell of the food Kasai brought. I wasn't able to think of anything to talk to Kasai about, so I just ate silently.
昨日、ミオンさんから連絡がありました。シオンさんの部屋に何度か電話したけど、出なかったからということで。
The moment I heard Mion's name, I felt my wounds throb. But I didn't stop Kasai, who continued.
園崎本家としては、シオンさんがご自分でけじめをつけられたので、あの学園には退学届が出されます。シオンさんは沖宮の学校に編入になるそうです。
Oh wow, things are actually kind of playing out okay.
園崎シオンの人権が認められたってことか。
そうですね。今後は 園崎紫音として生活してくださって構わないそうです。ですが、みだりにひなみざわには近づかないこと、園崎美音を語らないこと、人前にみだりに姿を現さないこと。
存在を認めてやるから、本家に目立つようなことは二度とするなってわけか。
そういうことになります。もちろん永続的なわけじゃありません。ほとぼりが冷めるまで当分ということです。具体的にいつまでという期限があるわけではありませんが、今年いっぱいくらいはこれまで通り目立たない生活を送られた方がよろしいかと思います。
Oh, but next year, we're fucking partying.
私は沖宮でひっそり暮らすだけで十分です。もともと、これまでだってそうして暮らしてきたわけだし。
Kasai put on a sad smile. I smiled back at him likewise. Before the conversation ended, I should ask him what I wanted to know.
サトシ君は、どうなったの？
I wish that Kasai would assure me of his safety right away, but he didn't answer like that.
葛西、サトシ君は、無事なの？
シオンさん。
Kasai put his chopsticks down. Oh, shit.
本家から、北条サトシ君のことは忘れろとことづかっています。
何それ？
シオンさん、あなたと喧嘩はしたくないんで、これ以上この話はしたくありません。
No, I think it'd be more understandable of the situation if we heard the details. Obviously, Shion will, fight for him, but at least we'd get to hear some details.
本家からの言葉を伝えるのみにとどめさせてもらいます。
何？その話をしたくないってのは、葛西
Kasai pretended as though he didn't hear me and started eating again. I'd never seen him get so stubborn like this. The Sonozaki family had been using the Hojo family as a scapegoat. They must have concluded that a Sonozaki shouldn't be in love with a Hojo. I didn't like that. Sadako is a friend of Mion's at school. Would it be okay if Satoshi-kun and I were the same gender? Well, anyway, if I did something conspicuous again, they might do something to him for real. Just like they forced me to remove my own fingernails. The Sonozaki family wouldn't hesitate. They'd torture him if need be. Maybe if I really loved him, I should stay away. Satoshi-kun won't show up in Okonomiya unless he rejoins the Hinamizawa fighters. I'd have to pretend to be Mion if I wanted to go to Hinamizawa, but I didn't think she'd cooperate with me. Even if she did, it'd be some time down the road. Even if they told me not to see him, well, I already had no means of doing that again. No, wait, Mion gave me his number a little while ago. I should call him, and maybe ask to meet with him secretly. But if I got caught again, they wouldn't cut me any slack. Should I risk it? What the hell did I even want from Satoshi-kun?
葛西、ちょっと、一人になりたい。
Kasai started putting away his food in a rush, assuming that I wanted him to leave.
あ、いいの。葛西はのんびり食べてて。私がちょっと一人で散歩がしたいだけなの。
私もシオンさんと一緒に出ないと、この部屋に鍵がかけられません。
Kasai quickly put away his meal and followed me out.
あ、先に断っとくけど、別にサトシ君に会いに行くわけじゃないからね。
わかりました。
I turned around and started walking. He's gonna follow us from a distance, I'm sure. My destination was rather pathetic. It was the toy store that sold that giant teddy bear. I couldn't deny that I was somewhat expecting Satoshi-kun to pass by there. I couldn't stop myself from looking at the faces of passers-by who resembled him. I looked into the store's window. The teddy bear was gone.
サトシ君、おめでとう。買えたんだね。
His evil aunt had died, and his wicked uncle was living with his mistress. Satoshi-kun succeeded in fulfilling his duty as a big brother by buying his little sister that huge teddy bear. There was nobody left to hurt him. He was free from his tiresome efforts. He was completely free from pain. Over time, he'd retrieve his smile, and he'd go back to being the Satoshi-kun I love. But I wouldn't be there for him, or with him. I heard a car honking. I didn't think it was honking at me at first, but it was so persistent that I had to look up. The person waving at me from their car was Irie. He was waving at me all carefree, oblivious to my feelings.
園崎さん、ご無沙汰していますね。あ、ひょっとしてサトシ君と待ち合わせでしたか？
いえ、そういうわけじゃないです。
そのおもちゃ屋さんのショーウィンドウはサトシ君もよく覗いていましたからね。それでてっきりサトシ君との待ち合わせか何かかなって思っちゃいまして。
Yeah, kinda.
いえ、たまたまここを通りかかっただけです。変えたみたいですね。サトシ君。
Irie seemed to know about the teddy bear as well. He smiled upon seeing its empty display case, or space, whatever.
昨日がサトコちゃんの誕生日でした。きっとあのぬいぐるみでそれをお祝いできたと思います。
Hey, I doubt it.
じゃあもうサトシ君は無茶なアルバイトに精を出さなくてもいいわけですね。
そうですね。
サトシ君ってそのHinamizawaファイターズ退部届とか出しちゃったんですか？
そんなもの出てたんですか？私は受け取ってませんよ。マネージャーの園崎さんは？
受け取ってないです。
誰も退部届を受け取ってないならしばらくして生活が落ち着いたらまた戻ってきてくれるんじゃないかなって思ってます。でもその時に園崎さんがいなかったらきっと悲しむだろうな。
Irie teased me. He's a grown-up after all. He's also the coach. He must have been trying to sound optimistic because he knew I was feeling a bit down.
園崎さんも落ち着いたらいつでもチームに帰ってきてください。あなたがいないとやっぱり寂しいですよ。園崎さんが帰ってきてくれたら、
Oh no.
ぜひ女子マネージャーの制服をメイドさんな格好にしようと思ってまして。
I burst into laughter. Irie sure hasn't changed.
あ、そうだ。もう名乗ってもいいんだった。監督、今まで騙しててすみません。私、ミオンじゃないんです。シオンっていう双子の妹なんです。訳ありで、今までずっとミオンのふりしてきました。
双子の妹さんですか？
He was totally taken aback. I burst into laughter again.
そうです。園崎シオンと言います。園崎本家に嫌われてるんで、あまり堂々と暮らせる立場じゃないんですけどね。
知らなかったですよ。まさかミオンさんに双子の妹さんがいたなんて。
Ah, fuck.
そりゃ全く同感です。
Suddenly, a loud voice interrupted us. The voice sounded mean and greasy, unlike Irie's. It was him, Higurashi.
入江先生もこんにちは。先日は遅くまでありがとうございました。
いえ、何もお役に立てませんで。申し訳ないです。
I'm sorry. They were just going through the motions. It was obvious that they hated each other. Irie whispered to me.
私はもうここを離れますが、一緒に車に乗りますか？お家まで送りますよ。
Irie figured that Ushi was after me, so he was giving me a chance to slip away. Looking at Ushi's face, it was clear that his focus was on me and not Irie. He probably intended to interrogate me until my testimony broke. I was sure I could talk my way out of it, but it'd just be a waste of time.
そうですね。じゃあ監督、そろそろ行きましょうか。
ありゃ？お二人でどちらかにお出かけの途中でしたか？
ええ、チームの夕涼み会用に景品を探しているところだったんです。他にも行くお店がたくさんありますので、この辺で私たちは失礼します。
Irie bowed, and I followed suit. I had to admire how good he was at lying. He's a grown-up after all. Ushi seemed to know it was a lie, but he didn't have a warrant so he couldn't stop us. I moved to get into Irie's car.
お怪我は大丈夫なんですか？園崎シオンさん。
I gasped when I heard that, sorry. Blech. My left hand was bandaged. It was unsightly, so I'd kept it in my pocket. There was no way Ushi could have been able to see it.
可能さえしなきゃ綺麗に治りますよ。私も子供の頃は
Oh my
何度か
god.
爪を剥いじゃったことがあ
He
りま
knows
したがね。
exactly what it
ほら、
was.
綺麗なもんでしょ
男の爪が綺麗でも気色悪いだけです。
Damn. Alright. Ushi scratched his head and chuckled. He's supposed to be one of the best cops at the Ukinomiya PD, and he knows about all the underground activities in the region. He must have heard about my payment from somewhere. Still, that happened in the secret basement of the Sonozaki main house. I couldn't underestimate this guy's sources.
お見舞い。感謝感激です。じゃあ、もう行きますね。失礼します。
He has somebody on the inside,
園崎し
actually.
おんさん、
We found that out from chapter 4.
私とコーヒーでも飲みに行きません？
Oh, no.
はあ？何それ？私を口説いてんですか？
そういうことでもいいですよ。
遠慮します。一日は有限。わざわざ退屈なことに費やすなんて馬鹿げてますから。
Hell yeah.
もう参ったな。じゃあこうしましょう。私とのおしゃべりが退屈になったらいつでも途中で帰っていいです。引き止めません？そういう約束でどうです？
あんたが喋るのは勝手ですが、私は喋りませんよ。それをおしゃべりと呼べるかは怪しいですが。
ねえ、それで結構です。シオンさんは聞き役で結構です。私が勝手に一方的に喋るだけ。あなたはコーヒーでも飲みながら中年親父の独り言を聞き流してくださればそれで結構です。
He was being strangely persistent. It didn't look like he was trying to poke a hole in my statement. What would he even talk about? I got a bit curious, even though I was still skeptical.
監督、すみません。私、ちょっと大石のおじさまとデートに行こうと思います。
ミオじゃない、シオンさん？
I winked at him and told him not to worry. Idiot didn't insist. He got in his car and drove off. Ushi backed his car up so I can get in. I hopped in the back seat since I didn't want to sit next to him. Understandable.
本当に喫茶店に行くの？
あなたの親類の目がない喫茶店があるなら紹介してもらえると助かるんですがね。
それなら勝手に連行でも何でもすればいい。
Ushi carefully checked for oncoming traffic and then started driving. Ushi took me to the police station as I thought he might. If he had taken me to a nice cafe, he could have scored some points. But whatever.
書の方が都合がいいと思ったから書にしただけです。私の話が退屈になったら帰っていいという約束はもちろん守りますから安心してください。
私を退屈させないように頑張ってくださいな。署内には腕組んで入ってあげましょうか、おじさま。
Ushi chuckled and got out of his car. He escorted me into the station. I thought he'd take me to an interrogation room, but instead he took me to an office of the investigation division. Officers in both suits and uniforms were working at their desks, answering phones. There was a desk with a plate that said section manager, and nearby there were couches and a table. Ooh. Ushi told me to sit on the couch and started making some instant coffee. I'd never been to this part of the police station. I looked around in curiosity.
まさか取調室でカツ丼でも食わされると思いました？
Yes. Ushi brought over a tray with coffee cups on it.
想像してたより待遇が良くて驚いてます。おしらすに直で正座くらいは覚悟してたのに。
そういうのは私の趣味じゃないな。
で、おしゃべりを聞かせてくれるんじゃなかったでしたっけ？
じゃあ最初からいきなり単刀直入に。シオンさんって北条聡さんのこと好き？
はあ？速攻退屈なんで即帰りますよ。
Well, that was easy.
じゃあ今のはなしということで。
Ushi must have known why I had to remove my fingernails. He wasn't trying to confirm that I liked Satoshi-kun. What he was really saying was that he knew already.
サトシ君の事件当日のアリバイなら先日熊谷刑事さんに全部お話ししたつもりです。
もちろん私も熊ちゃん、いや 熊谷君の調書は読んでます。あなたがサトシ君と一緒にいたことは知ってます。
何度聞かれたって同じ話しかしませんよ私。しつこく反復して聞いたらそのうちにボロを出すとか考えてるなら大甘もいいとこです。
まさかまさか、そんなこと考えてません。あなたは頭のいい人です。そんな手に引っかかるなんて思っちゃいません。
ならどういう手を考えてるやら。どちらにせよ私からサトシ君のことを何か聞き出そうとしてもそれは無駄なことです。先日お話しした以上のことは何もありません。ああ残念。やっぱり退屈な話でしたね。私帰らせてもらいます。そういう約束でしたからね。失礼します。
I got up off the couch.
シオンさん、確かに私はあなたからサトシさんのアリバイを聞こうと思っていました。それは認めますよ。
なら決まりです。やっぱり退屈でした。帰ります。
Haha. I turned around and started walking. Hell yeah, what a girl boss. Higurashi didn't get anxious, but instead spoke a little louder.
でもね、シオンさん、私が聞きたいのはサトシさんの事件当日のアリバイじゃない。昨日のアリバイなんです。
昨日？なんで昨日のアリバイなんかが聞かれるんですか？昨日のサトシ君のアリバイがおばさんが殺された事件とどう関係があるってんです？
昨日、サトシ君が出かけたまま失踪されたからです。
I had a sneaking feeling that this was coming up. What?
サトシ君が失踪されたことはご存知なかった？
I couldn't say anything, but my expression answered Ushi's question anyway.
どういうことですか？失踪って何？
やっぱり座ったらどうです？
サトシ君が失踪したって何？
一つ確実に分かっていることは、彼が3時前に沖宮の郵便局で貯金を全額下ろしているということだけです。その後の足取りはつかめません。
I knew why he withdrew that money. He wanted to buy Sotoko's birthday present. Yes, he definitely bought that teddy bear yesterday.
これは私の想像ですよ。彼はひょっとしてそのお金でどっか遠くに蒸発したんじゃないかなって。
Okay, but what happened to the big-ass teddy bear?
逃走資金だってんですか？バッカバカしい。あのお金はね、サトコの誕生日プレゼントを買うためにサトシ君が貯めていたんです。それであのおもちゃ屋にあったでかくて高いぬいぐるみを買ったんです。逃走に使うお金になんかなるわけないです。
確かにあのおもちゃ屋から一番高いぬいぐるみが売れていました。でもね、それをサトシ君が買った確証が取れないんです。
店の人に聞けばそんなのわかりますって。私とサトシ君で買う予約までしてるんですから。
I had a bad feeling. That old man who was watching that store was sleeping when we were there. He looked very senile. Maybe he was also watching that store on that day, and even though Satoshi-kun bought the teddy bear, he didn't remember. Ueshi put on a wry smile. It looked like he'd already tried to question that old man.
とにかくあれを買ったのはサトシ君なんです。サトシ君はぬいぐるみの金額ギリギリしかお金がなかったはずだから、ぬいぐるみ代を支払ってさらに逃亡資金を用意できたなんて思えません。めちゃめちゃもいいとこです。
いいですよ。じゃあサトシ君がぬいぐるみを買ったことでもいいです。じゃあそのぬいぐるみを持ってどうして帰らなかったんですか？
At that point, I felt as though my heart had turned to ice. Satoshi-kun, who had been working hard to buy that teddy bear, even though he was under extreme mental and physical stress, after all that, he finally managed to buy it. It's unthinkable that somebody else just showed up and bought the same teddy bear. The teddy bear was gone because Satoshi-kun bought it, nobody else. But if so, Satoshi-kun should have given it to Soroko. But though he bought a present for her, he didn't come home. He didn't come home. That wasn't possible. He would have gone straight home with that teddy bear. He wouldn't think of running away after buying the teddy bear. Even though Satoshi-kun wanted to run away from the police, he'd never leave without giving Soroko her present. Anyway, it must have been Satoshi-kun who bought that teddy bear. I can't say that with 100% certainty. The question was, why didn't he bring it home? That teddy bear was huge. It wouldn't fit into the basket of a bicycle. He might have brought some straps to tie it into his bike. He wouldn't have thought of running away on a wobbly bicycle like that. He necessarily had to go home after buying the teddy bear from the store after withdrawing the money. Nothing could have happened while he was going, or when he was going between the ATM and the toy store. It was impossible. Nobody else could possibly have bought that teddy bear. Never. That teddy bear had been sitting in the showcase up until that day. Everybody could see it when they passed by, but nobody wanted it. It's impossible that it could have been somebody else. There should be no question that he went to the toy store after he withdrew the money. What about the route between the toy store and his home? There shouldn't be any question there either. He shouldn't have been able to do anything with that huge toy. He shouldn't even have thought of making a stop on the way. So he must have headed home right after he bought that teddy bear. But nobody saw him after that. It was simple then. Satoshi-kun went missing on his way home from the toy store. He went missing? Well, what did that mean? I was sure he killed his aunt. He's not that shrewd. Maybe he couldn't bear the pressure from the police? Was he resigned to the idea that the police were going to arrest him soon, regardless of my help? Did he decide to run away? Did he think that he should disappear until things cooled down rather than get arrested? That was definitely absolutely impossible. It was impossible that he came to that conclusion on his way home from the toy store. Even if he did, he would have waited until he gave Sotoko her birthday present. Satoshi-kun loves Sotoko. He shouldn't have spoiled her like that. But anyway, he always tried to be a good brother to her. So he'd never disappear before going home. I felt as though the ice was cutting through my heart, expanding the frost. If Satoshi-kun didn't disappear by his own will, the answer was simple. Satoshi-kun disappeared by somebody else's will.
サトシ君が消された。バカバカしいです。やっぱり退屈な話ですよ、おじさま。
I thought I could shake off the frost in my heart if I laughed loudly enough. I kept laughing until it happened. I kept laughing and laughing. All the cops in the room stared at me. They thought I'd gone crazy. I didn't care what they thought. I kept laughing until it turned into a cough. I finished laughing and took a sip of a lukewarm coffee. I felt as though the frost in my heart had spread all throughout my guts. I was chilled to the bone. I was freezing. My fingers shook as I held the coffee cup.
シオンさん、ちょっと口を挟まずに聞いててほしいんです。これから私がちょいと想像した話を申し上げます。全部でっち上げです。だからきっとシオンさんはあまりのいい加減な内容に吹き出しちゃいそうになるかもしれません。それでも最後まで黙って聞いていてほしいんです。約束してもらえます？
いや、約束なんて何でもするから。早く言いなさいよ。
I was feeling far too cold. My teeth were chattering. I felt as though my brain had frozen as well. I lost my ability to think. I couldn't do anything by myself. I could only do as Ueshi told me. What he was going to tell me might be the worst possible theory, but I had to listen to it.
死んだおばがサトシ君とサトコさんをいじめていたことはよーく聞いています。
Yeah, everybody and their goddamn mother knew.
中でもサトコさんを執拗にいじめていたこともね。その中でサトシ君が妹をかばうためにおばに殺意を募らせていったとしても。
Yeah?
私は人として自然な流れだと思います。
I kind of get that perspective. If you're being abused, and if, you know, a close sibling of yours is being abused, eventually you'll want to fight back. I had to deny that Satoshi-kun murdered her, But what Ushi was saying was true. I couldn't deny his hypothesis right away. I just kept silent.
ここからは空想ですよ。絶対に怒らないでください。口を挟むのもなし。いいですね。
分かってるから早く続けなさいよ。
I'm loving this music.
北条聡はおば殺しを計画し実行した。ねえ、もちろん証拠なんてありませんよ。全部私の妄想です。
Yes, we get it.
分かってるって。あんたの妄想なのは百も承知。だから早く続けて。
ここで話は変わります。シオンさん、あなたはサトシ君との交際を禁じられたんですよね。もう忘れろ。二度と関わるなと念をされたんですよね。それは実は不仲な両家の関係を意味嫌ったからでなく、殺人犯と園崎家の令嬢が恋仲であることに問題があったんじゃないかと思ったんです。
That is actually possible. After all, when I was pretending to be Mion, I already had a connection with Satoshi-kun. Before anyone knew it was Shion who was spending time around him. I could have been accused when I was helping out the Hinamizawa fighters if the relationship between the Hojos and the Sonozakis was the problem. It wouldn't be difficult for the Sonozaki family to know that Satoshi-kun murdered his aunt if it happened in Hinamizawa. Maybe one of them even saw the murder. The Sonozaki family didn't like that I was in love with a murderer. They decided to step in.
あと、あなた、諦めが悪いことでも知られてるんじゃないですか？
Yeah, like 99% of Hinamizawa is like that.
つまり、園崎本家にサトシ君との縁を切れと脅されて、サトシ君との縁を切りかねていましたよね。
I couldn't deny that. I lost most of my means to access Hinamizawa, so my ties to Satoshi-kun were essentially cut, true. But I still knew Satoshi-kun's phone number, and I expected him to rejoin the Hinamizawa fighters eventually.
園崎本家はサトシ君とあなたの縁はちょっと脅しただけじゃ絶対に切れないと分かっていたと思います。あなたをいくら脅してもどうにもならない。じゃあもう一人の方をどうにかするしかないですよね。
どうにかって何？どうにかって何よ？何？
If threatening me was useless, then they'd do something about Satoshi-kun. I mean, it's what I think happened. After we learned a lot of shit in Chapter 2, really what the Sonozakis were all about, yeah, I can see them stepping in and, doing some unhumane actions. What would they have done? If they pulled something, then wouldn't that interrupt his path from the toy store to home? Toy store to home. Toy store to X to home. What's X? What is X? X marks the spot where his path was interrupted. But what interrupted it? Why couldn't Satoshi-kun make it home from the toy store if something interrupted him? Why? What is X? X. I ran out of air, became dizzy, and then collapsed. Alright. The floor felt cold. I felt no pain. I had fallen to the floor like a plastic doll. Ueshi and others, or some others, rushed over to me and helped me up.
落ち着いてシオンさん。サトシ君が殺されたとはまだ限りません。
You're not certain he was killed? What the fuck are you talking about? Don't you know about that torture room where they forced me to rip off my fingernails? Don't you know that they say there are prison cells and a well for disposing of corpses in the back? If the Sonozaki family wants to eliminate somebody, they definitely kill them in that torture room and dump the body down there. You're not certain? Are you dumb? Is your brain made of tofu? If I were in the hag's position, I'd kill him for sure. I wouldn't let him get away. If I would kill him, then the hag would definitely kill him.
シオンさん落ち着いて。これはまだ未確認情報ですが、名古屋駅で家出人風の若者を見たという情報が入っています。東京行きの新幹線に乗ったそうです。服装の特徴などが一致しませんでしたが、警察の追跡等を意識して衣替えをしている可能性もあります。服装が違うからサトシ君でないとは言い切れませんよ。
生きてるの？サトシ君。
ここからもまた私の想像になりますがね。 あなたの双子のお姉さんのミオンさん、次期当主ということで園崎お涼の身近にいますよね。園崎お涼はおそらく最初はサトシ君をこっそり殺してしまおうと提案したと思います。それをあなたのお姉さんが止めたんじゃないかと思うんです。
Mion. That was possible. She could have tried to calm things down out of pity for me. That idiot was always so indecisive. She should have been clear, she should have been clear on if she wanted to save him or not. But she probably seemed vague about it. She must have persuaded the hag to reduce the punishment to banishment instead of death, just to avoid feeling guilty.
おそらく園崎本家はサトシ君と接触したでしょう。今回の事件はかばいきれない。だから自分の身は自分で守るためにどこかへ姿を隠せと忠告したはずです。
That sounds so kind, though.
いや、
It's out of character.
強要したと言った方が似合うでしょうね。
サトシ君は絶対拒否すると思います。だってあのサトシ君が妹を一人残してひなみざわを離れられるわけがない。
Well, hold on there, because there's a lot of misconceptions that I think we could be having here about Satoshi and Sotoko. Obviously, Satoshi has protected Sotoko, and Sotoko, being Sotoko, probably brought on a lot of the things that happen in that family. It's possible, but not really confirmed. I think we just need more of that sort of perspective. We only got glimpses of what Satoshi-kun was kind of going through. I don't know why I'm adding kun to his name there, but whatever Satoshi was actually going through and what he thought, it is likely that he was just doing a lot of what he was doing out of guilt. He maybe actually had a lot of disgust for what he was doing, and if there was an opportunity to run away and even abandon Sotoko, there's a likelihood that he would have, just to get away, completely start over. Maybe. I don't know.
私もそう思います。確かサトシ君は園崎美音さんの紹介でバイトをしてましたよね。だからサトシ君に逃走資金になるまとまったお金があることを知っていたと思います。
でもサトシ君はそのお金をぬいぐるみを買う以外には絶対に使わないはずです。
でしょうね。サトシ君は貯金を下ろしたら迷うことなくおもちゃ屋に向かうでしょう。でもサトシ君がおもちゃ屋にたどり着くと、もうぬいぐるみが売れてしまっていてなくなっていたら。
Did not know he was done talking there, but that would have been a very desolate situation. He'd been working hard. While his aunt abused him, he worked at many different jobs. The money was worth all that pain. He went to the toy store with that money in order to buy his beloved sister a present, and that was the only purpose for that money. He must have looked for the teddy bear as he'd always done, but it was gone. He wouldn't have gone into a panic right away, because he was always so optimistic. He might have thought the store was wrapping the gift for him because he told them that he'd pick it up that day. He must have gone to the store joyously. I couldn't guess exactly what happened next. My heart would tear up if I tried to imagine it anyway. Why didn't they have it, even though he had it reserved? Did that old man understand the situation, or was he just zoning out? Maybe it would have been the same even if it wasn't the old man who was at the store at that time. If a bunch of fierce-looking subordinates from the Sonozaki family went in and showed them the money, nobody could have rejected it. Satoshi-kun must have sunk into silence. No matter how hard he complained, the teddy bear was gone. He probably never even considered that his dream might be taken away. He must have been wobbling his way home in sorrow, leaning on the telephone poles every now and then. It was the day he wanted Sotoko to be happy the most. He couldn't get the present she wanted the most, and he probably didn't think of getting another gift, because it was unimaginable that he couldn't get that teddy bear. He might have imagined how Sotoko would react when she found out he had no present for her. He must have looked unbelievably sad and empty. The money he'd been saving meant nothing anymore. Satoshi-kun never cried, even at his toughest moments. Did he even know how to cry? It was always Sotoko who was crying. So Satoshi-kun never learned how to cry, and he grew up that way. Did you know? People shed sadness from their hearts with tears. Satoshi-kun wasn't even allowed to do that. Even though his heart was filled with sorrow, he couldn't let it out.
妹を一人残してhinamizawaを離れられないと言いましたね。でももしも園崎本家が残った聡子さんの面倒は見るって言ってあったとしたらどう思います？
After Satoshi-kun found out the teddy bear was gone, all he had left were some crumpled bills. The family told him that it was just a matter of time before the police got to him. They told him to run away. They said they'd take care of Sotoko. Satoshi-kun didn't feel like seeing his sister. He wandered and found himself at Okonomiya Station. He must have been apologizing to Sotoko so many times in his mind. He swore to come back someday. He headed to Nagoya, and then to Tokyo. But that meant he's alive. He's alive! I should be able to see him again someday. He must be coming back, so I'll definitely see him again.
そうしてずっと遠方に隠れ家か受け入れ先を用意してくれたんじゃないかと思います。サトシ君はそこを目指したのでしょう。
じゃあ無事なんだ。いつか帰ってくるんですよね。
Higurashi looked up at the ceiling and stretched. He didn't answer me. On June 24th, 1982, Satoshi Hojo went missing. There is a possibility that he ran away, as he was the prime suspect of the murder that happened on the 20th of the same month. Allegedly, someone resembling him was seen at Nagoya Station embarking on a train heading to Tokyo, but the truth is unknown. No one has seen him since. As a matter of fact, no one even knows if he's still alive. Alright. Alright. Things are really kind of lining up here. I don't know what's going to happen next now. We have a couple of notebook pages that we can look at, so I guess we should jump into those, 34 and 42. Train to Nowhere is the name of this achievement. Cast your votes. Did Satoshi run away, or is he dead? Maybe he's imprisoned or something, I don't know. The information that Satoshi-kun might have headed to Tokyo hasn't been verified. It started as follows. A young man came to the lost and found window looking for his wallet. The station employee asked him to write down his name on the form. Then the young man started writing Hojo as his name, but he stopped in the middle, crumpled the form, and wrote a totally different name on another. Another station employee witnessed a similar-looking young man rushing into the train heading to Tokyo. The employee from the Lost and Found and the employee who was on the platform talked about the suspicious young man in the locker room. That was all. The wallet of the man named Hojo was never reported as found to the Lost and Found office. So wait, did that actually happen? Or is that like a theory? At first I thought Ugushi's theory about the Sonozaki family banished Satoshi-kun from Hinamizawa and looked after Sotoko in return was bogus. But thinking about it now, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. After all, Sotoko Hojo started living with Rika Furude after Satoshi-kun's disappearance. Rika Furude isn't just a regular girl. She was the head of the Furude family, one of the 3 families. The head of the Kimiyoshi family is Rika Furude's guardian. The Sonozaki family probably couldn't step in due to having been officially opposed to the Hojo family. But Sotoko Hojo is in the custody of the 3 families now. Even though the Hojo family was severely ostracized during the dam conflict, Sotoko Hojo was now under protection. It seems as though only Sotoko was exempted from blame. Why was she spared even though Satoshi-kun wasn't? Lots of good questions here. However, if I can get the fuck out of this menu, we're gonna end the episode here, and we'll just, we'll see what happens next. We seem to always be coming up to this goddamn ceiling. We had a whole episode that was practically this ceiling. Absolutely insane. So I still don't know what to think with a lot of these things, a lot of things that we've, already been informed of in previous chapters, especially chapter 3, when we got to learn a lot about Sotoko and more on Satoshi, but really nothing that answers questions. We haven't really gotten to that point yet. And, I'll be patient and I'll keep my eyes, ears, and maybe even my nose peeled, but so far everything is as we kind of expected things to be. The only thing that really stood out to me up to this point has been that deal with Rena, basically straight up lying to Keiichi about not having met Satoshi-kun. Or did she? I don't know, because she also talked about how apparently Satoshi acted in the same vein of Keiichi in Chapter 1. Or maybe that was Mion. I can't remember, it's been a long time. But there's a lot of parallels that we can take from the events that we've seen here, and it's not just Keiichi and Satoshi. Shion also kind of plays a part there, and what she thinks would be right. I don't know. I guess we'll just keep trekking along. I'll keep on figuring things out, predicting things, and what have you. We're still so early on in this arc that no answers seem to have been, coming here. But it is what it is. Thank you all for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.